What if a single valley could decide the fate of a nation? What if the land itself took sides against the men who claimed to conquer it? Summer 1876. 600 riders move across the Montana plains, the sun on their flags, dust in their lungs, destiny in their eyes. At their head rides one man, George Custer, a soldier turned legend, chasing immortality beneath a sky too wide to forgive. But far beyond those golden hills, unseen eyes are watching. Warriors of the Sioux and Cheyenne wait in silence as prophecy stirs with the wind. When the first hoof strikes the valley floor, the hunter and the hunted will change places forever. Was it destiny, or was disaster simply waiting for its moment? In the summer of 1876, beneath the vast blue vault of the Montana sky, two worlds were set on a collision course. One carried banners, rifles, and the restless pride of a rising empire. The other bore centuries of memory, the songs of ancestors, the freedom of the Buffalo Plains, and the grief of promises broken. This would be remembered as the Battle of the Little Bighorn, Custer's last stand. But was it truly his story, or the turning point when a nation lost its soul? The land was quiet, too quiet. Endless grass swayed like waves beneath the wind. The Little Bighorn River wound through the valley like a vein of silver, reflecting the sun's hard light. Every hill and ravine, every whisper of breeze seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something it could already sense. Across those open plains, blue-coated columns wound their way through the dust, the 7th Cavalry, their horses weary.
Smoke means villages, and villages mean victory.
Their eyes fixed on the horizon. They carried the weight of discipline and confidence, the arrogance of conquest. Drums of a different kind echoed from afar, not military snare, but sacred rhythm carried on the wind from the villages ahead. To understand what happened here, we must meet those who gave this place its meaning. They were not gods or monsters, only men, bound by courage and blindness, by fear and conviction. Heroes in one tale, rebels in another, and on that field of sun and dust, destiny would judge them all. George Custer, the boy general of the Civil War, golden hair glinting like fire, blue eyes sharp and restless. He wore buckskin instead of uniform, more showman than soldier, a man addicted to the theater of glory. For him, war had never ended. It had simply changed scenery. He believed himself chosen, blessed with luck that would never falter. But fate does not play favorites for long. Across the valley, another leader dreamed a very different dream. The Tonka Iotate, Sitting Bull, holy man, prophet, and voice of the Lakota spirit. He saw the world not in victories or medals, but in visions. And in one of those visions, he saw soldiers falling from the sky, countless, lifeless, like grasshoppers after the storm. To his people, it was a sign that their struggle was just that the spirits had spoken. To the soldiers marching toward him, it would be a prophecy fulfilled in blood. Beside him stood Cossack Whitco, crazy horse, slender, silent, his long black hair loose, his face unpainted. He believed pride invited death, that humility was a warrior's strongest shield. He rode not for fame, but for survival, for the sacred rhythm of his people. As heartbeat in the earth beneath his horse as hooves. Where Custer sought immortality in history, Crazy Horse found eternity in the land itself. And then there was Gall, broad-shouldered, calm, deliberate. He saw the field not as chaos, but as pattern. Every ridge, every bend in the river spoke to him like a map written by the ancestors. Where Sitting Bull inspired faith and Crazy Horse embodied fire. Gall was reason, the hand that would shape their victory. Spring of 1876, an order came from Washington. All Sioux and Cheyenne bands must return to their assigned reservations. Those who refused would be declared hostile. The words were cold, bureaucratic, but what they meant was the end of a way of life. How do you cage a people whose souls run with the buffalo? How do you confine a nation that prays with the sky? Along the banks of the Little Bighorn, life went on as it always had. Women
This is
tanned
your
hides
journey
in the
now.
sun, their laughter mingling with the crackle of fires. Children raced by the river, chasing dogs and dragonflies. Old men sat beneath cottonwoods, carving pipes and speaking softly of the old days, when the land was endless and unbroken. Horses drank
Great
at the water's
Spirit,
edge,
protect us.
their reflections wavering beside the mirrored clouds. The air smelled of sage and smoke, and for a moment, the world seemed eternal. But peace has a fragile heartbeat. When Sitting Bull awoke from his vision, the camp fell silent. No one questioned him. His words carried the weight of generations. They will fall from the sky, he said. They will not rise again. And the people listened. Women gathered supplies. Men checked bows and rifles. The children were taught where to run if soldiers came. Prophecy became preparation. Far to the east, the 7th Cavalry rode toward their destiny. 600 men, tired, sunburned, their uniforms caked with dust. Yet Custer's energy was electric, contagious. He spoke of victory as if it were already won. For him, this was no routine mission. It was redemption, perhaps even resurrection. He imagined headlines, applause, his name shining once more in Washington. The Sioux and Cheyenne were not defenders of a homeland to him. They were simply obstacles on his climb toward eternity. He studied his map under the hard noon sun. Strike fast, strike hard, leave none standing. His fingers traced lines over the paper, carving paths toward glory. But beyond those hills waited something the map did not show. A gathering larger and stronger than any he had faced. Over 2,000 warriors camped together beside the river, bound by shared purpose and prophecy. The plains themselves seemed to hum with their presence. June 24, 1876. The column neared the valley. Custer's scouts, Crow and Arikara, rode ahead, their eyes sharp as hawks. They saw the smoke first, not one column, but many, spiraling into the sky. Each pillar marked a fire, each fire a family, each family a warrior. The scouts dismounted, studied the tracks. Hundreds, thousands of hoof prints pressed into the dirt like waves frozen in motion. They turned back, uneasy. The village is large, they warned.
Reno,
Too
Benteen,
large.
this is the plan.
But Custer's
We
pride
advance
deafened
along
him.
this ridge.
Numbers don't win wars, he thought. Courage does. And courage, to him, was simply another word for faith in himself. That night, campfires burned along the ridges. Men murmured prayers, cleaned their weapons, wrote last letters home they'd never send. The moon hung pale above the hills like a watchful eye. In the stillness, a few horses shifted restlessly, as if sensing what men could not. At dawn, June 25th, the order came. Reno would attack from the south, 140 men. Benteen would ride left to block escape. Custer himself would sweep north with 210, striking from the flank, 3 spears against the storm. To his officers, it sounded bold, decisive. To history, it would sound like madness. The wind rose suddenly, snapping the flags like whips. Custer sat tall in the saddle, golden hair whipping behind him. His
Great
eyes
Spirit,
blazed with the certainty of
hear
a man
our
who could
prayer.
not imagine failure. Around him, some soldiers prayed under their breath. Others grinned nervously, hiding their fear behind jokes. The legend of Custer had carried them far. The legends, like mirrors, shatter under pressure. Across the valley, the Sioux and Cheyenne prepared as well. Scouts returned breathless, reporting the approach of bluecoats. Drums began to sound, slow, steady, growing faster with every beat. Women gathered children into the center of camp. Men painted their faces with red earth and ash, whispering to the spirits of their fathers. The air itself seemed to tighten. Sitting Bull stepped outside his lodge, the morning wind carrying the scent of sage and dust. He looked toward the east, toward the ridges where the cavalry advanced. His expression did not change. He raised his pipe toward the sky. The spirits have shown the path, he said softly. Now we must walk it. The valley waited. The river murmured. The sky, bright and pitiless, watched in silence. 600 men rode forward, their horses shimmering with sweat, their rifles glinting in the sun. They believed themselves the hunters, but the earth beneath them The wind around them, the spirits above them, all knew the truth. They had already become the prey.